political aspirations?
No, I don't. I have been very blessed to serve in a number of positions in the government, including what George Shultz once called the best job in government, that's Secretary of State, and he was absolutely right about that. But over the years, as I've been asked whether I might run for this or run for that, I've always come down on the fact that the time just wasn't right. And pretty soon I started to saying to myself, well, maybe the time just isn't going to be right. And I think it's really not in me. I don't have that kind of fire in the belly. I have a lot of respect for people who do run for office, but I think it's frankly not for me.
What do you want to talk about?
I'm going to talk about the challenges that we face. I am going to remind people that today's headlines and history's judgment are rarely the same, and that it's extremely important to focus on essentials and the key elements of successful policy for the future, because history has a long arc, not a short one. And I'll have a chance to talk about some of those challenges: defending the country, the challenge of dealing with global financial and economic crisis, continuing to promote democracy, which the United States stands for and must stand for, as well as some of our challenges at home, because as a country that has strong values and strong principles, that's how we lead. We lead on the basis of those values and principles. And so I'm looking forward to an opportunity to talk about some of those challenges and dilemmas, but also about the way that we need to address them as an optimistic people and an optimistic country, because I really do believe, after many years of traveling the world, that the United States of America is fortunate to have the world's most optimistic people as its population.
How has the transition gone from you as Secretary of State to Secretary Clinton currently?
Well, the transition was very smooth. First of all, I have known Hillary Clinton since she brought her freshman daughter to Stanford when I was provost at the university. So we have known each other a very long time. We knew each other during the time that she was in the Senate. I have enormous respect for her. I think she's a patriot. I think she's a very sound person. And we were determined to have a very smooth transition. President Bush and then President-elect Obama were determined to have a smooth transition. And so that's how we conducted it. The State Department is also fortunate to have a very capable civil service, the Foreign Service, career service. And those people provide continuity in ways that some agencies really don't have. And so, for instance, the third-ranking officer in the State Department, Bill Burns, a very fine officer who was our ambassador to Moscow at one point, our ambassador to Jordan at one point. Bill Burns remains as the Undersecretary for Political Affairs, as he was for me, and so you have a lot of continuity in the Department of State, and I think the transition went very, very well indeed.
You have been as outspoken with criticism of the Obama administration as some former Bush people. Is that a decision that you made, or have you just not seen much of it?
Well, I feel, and I think President Bush himself probably said it best, I owe these folks my silence and my loyalty. I know what it's like to sit in that office, getting up every day, working around the clock on some of the most difficult issues, and to have people chirping at you from the sidelines. Let me just tell you, things look a lot easier out here than they do when you're in there. And so I think one of the great things about our system is that we have change. We had our 8 years. I think we did many things well. I think there are a lot of things that we could have done better. But that is behind us, and we have a new administration and new leaders who are doing their best for the country. I don't hesitate to talk about the issues and about how we might approach them. But I don't see any purpose. I think there is a certain decorum that is owed to your successors, and I'm comfortable in that role. I won't hesitate to call up somebody if I think there's something that I need to say, but I'll do that privately.
Is there a world situation that concerns you more than others, be it Afghanistan or the situation in Iran or wherever?
Yes. Well, first and foremost, we have to deal with the failed states. that are the source of so much conflict and really the source of danger to us. One of the most surprising things to me when I entered government was the degree to which the threat to the United States didn't come from powerful states, it came from failed states, and the quintessential failed state was Afghanistan. I know how hard it is in Afghanistan. Afghanistan is the 5th poorest country in the world. It has basically no road network except what we've built. It has very little electricity outside of Kabul. It's a complicated tribal place that has always been very decentralized, and so it's very hard. And I know, and it has the unfortunate geography of very high mountains and a border with Pakistan in an area of Pakistan that's ungoverned, the northwest frontier area. So it was always going to be hard, but we can't afford to lose patience with Afghanistan. So because I think it is still potentially, it isn't as it was before 9/11, but it is still potentially the greatest safe haven for terrorists. I think this is something that we have to deal with. I worry some about the border with Mexico. That is an area that also has certain characteristics of a failed state that is not really strong government control. The Mexicans experienced 5,000 assassinations and kidnappings last year of officials. And the Calderon government, which is a very good government, has reached out to the United States, did to the Bush administration. I know that the Obama administration is continuing to work with them to train the Army and the police to try to deal with the drug cartels there. But Juarez and Tijuana, which used to be cities that Americans went to across the border easily, are places that you would not want to go now. And so I worry some about that as well. But I think our primary concern has to be to get Afghanistan and Pakistan right. And, of course, you've been reading a lot recently about Yemen, which has also some of the characteristics of state failure, ungoverned territories. So there's plenty to do in that regard, but the number one security threat on the foreign policy side really is the existence of these failed states, and they have to be healed, and that's hard work, and it's dangerous work. It takes a lot of resources and a lot of patience.
Would you talk a little bit about what you think about the use of timelines and how that might affect diplomacy, if it makes it more difficult? What's your thoughts on that?
Right. Well, it depends. In general, I'm not much for timelines because you find that when the end comes, that perhaps something is progressing a little bit and you don't want to blow the whistle, and pretty soon you've issued timeline after timeline and nothing has happened, which I think is a problem for credibility. But I think it's less important whether or not you have a timeline than whether you have a strategy at the end of whatever period you've declared. And in regards to the Afghanistan engagement, what I heard President Obama say was that 18 months dependent on conditions on the ground. Now, I probably would have said dependent on conditions on the ground, but I think that shows that nobody wants to be in a position of having issued a hard timeline, which then would cause you to uproot your policy when it's working. And so timelines are sort of a double-edged sword. I don't myself care much for them, but they creep into foreign policy and they creep into diplomacy. It's just the nature of the beast.